welcome to the Dr. Margo Show, and we're so glad you're here. Thank you for listening in. We have a very special guest today, one of my friends, and but I want to tell you a little bit about him because I grew up when For Him was on the scene and with Point of Grace and all those great people. So he has, I'm going to read a little bit about his career. And if you've ever been in church, if you've ever listened to Christian radio, you have heard Andy Chrisman on your radio station. He is a worship leader at Church on the Move, but he's got a wonderful career in music. And today we're going to talk about, well, not only what he's done in music, but how his music career has just grown and how he has made some transitions from those early days to what he does now and how he's had longevity in the music business. So thank you for joining the Dr. Margo Show. Andy, thank you for being here.
Dr. Margo, it is a pleasure to sit here with you today.
Thank you so much.
My friend, good to see you.
Yes, it's good to see you too. Well, the very first thing that I want to talk about is about your music career and the first part of For Him, because, you know, when we were all young and girls and we were loving all those guys. And so you were on the scene and you got Dove Awards. And so talk to us about your career and how it started.
I mean, you know, depending on how far back you want to go, I've always known I had a strong voice. Grew up in Waco, Texas. Didn't really grow up in a musical family per se. My brother was a worship pastor, 10 years older than me, and so he'd always give me opportunities to sing. I would sing at my local little Southern Baptist church where my parents were. My dad was head deacon, and my mom was a WMU director. And so I led the hymn service there when I was like 15, 16 years old, just reading out of the hymn book. And that's kind of where I got my start, sang a little bit at school, but it wasn't until I got to college, went to Oklahoma State when I graduated high school, and I met some musicians there. We started making some music. Word got around that, you know, that I could do this, you know, kind of at a high level, and I got an offer to be in a group called Truth.
I remember.
Yeah, Roger Breland and Truth.
Yeah.
A lot of great people. That's where For Him came out of. Artists like Avalon came out of Truth. Natalie Grant came out of Truth. Steve Green, you remember him?
Yes.
Came out of Truth.
Yes.
Lots of musicians that are like session players all over Nashville and L.A. Lots of people on Broadway. I mean, it was a boot camp for Christian musicians. So
yes.
I joined that group in '87. I mentioned a second ago that I met the other guys that would form For Him. We did about 1,000 shows together.
Wow.
In Truth together. And then we got signed by the label that Truth was on, just to say, we don't know if this is going to work or not, but there hasn't been a contemporary male vocal band since really the heyday of the Imperials. So this was 1990. And so they signed us, didn't know if it didn't spin very much on the record, found a bunch of songs that nobody else wanted. One of those songs was Where There's Faith.
Wow. And
Where There's Faith really changed the direction of Christian radio at the time. It obviously gave us a jump start to our career. All of a sudden we were selling out concert venues across the country just in our first year of being on the road. And so we had a really great 16-year career as For Him. I think we had like 26 number one songs on Christian radio, won some Dove Awards, got some Grammy nominations. It was super fun, and I really enjoyed all that time making music and traveling with my brothers. But, you know, at some point, I realized that God's first calling on my life was to lead people in worship, like I was doing at 16 years old at my little Southern Baptist church.
Really?
That was the thing that kept kind of poking its head out of my heart every now and then. You know, just every time I do it, or somebody would invite me to their church to lead worship on a Sunday night, I would do it reluctantly because I was tired. You know, I'm like, I've been touring.
Yeah.
I want to spend Sunday night at home, but I would do it, and the anointing would be there, and I'd be just like, I can't ignore this. And so God got my attention around 99.
And you had a solo career, a solo album.
I did, yeah. So that
in
was
between
kind of in
that
the middle.
time.
Yeah, so I left. I pretty much, I told the guys in For Him, hey, look, God's got something else for me. I think it's in worship, but some other things I want to do apart from the group. So I started to extract myself from For Him in around 1999. It wasn't until 2006 that we actually kind of closed down shop there. But in the meantime, I helped a friend of mine build a church in Orlando, and I went there as his worship pastor, my first worship pastor job.
Oh, okay.
And that's where I did my solo record. So I wrote all the songs there in Orlando.
Yeah.
Used all of my connections in Nashville. And I'm pretty proud of that record. I still listen to it.
Yes.
Every now and then, my grandkids love it. They listen to it. And but yeah, I just did the one, and then I was done. I felt like, okay, I did it. Proved I could do it. Now let's move on and give your life to worship.
And so you were. I didn't know that you were worship leader before you actually came to Church on the Move, because that's when I realized, hey, you're a worship leader.
Yeah.
And my kids were going there, and so how long have you been at Church on the Move?
So I moved here in 2005.
Okay.
We started our church in Orlando in 2000, and Church on the Move was actually one of our biggest sponsors of that church. They sowed seed every month into our church to get us off the ground. So they had an investment in what we were doing there. And people like, there were some pastors that would come down and kind of speak and train.
Yeah.
And they would hear me lead worship. And so they would come back and have conversations, later on, just like, hey, if we ever need a new worship pastor, we need to consider that guy.
Yeah.
So there's a point where I just felt like the Lord spoke to me and said, hey, you're done here in Orlando, and I've got something else for you. So it was within 24 hours that I felt him speak that to me. Willie George called me. Cole called me. I was on the golf course.
Oh, wow.
And a 918 number came up on my cell phone.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know who that is. So I let it go to voicemail and finished my round, got in the car, and I play that voicemail, and it's that voice message, and it's Andy, Willie George, Church on the Move, and then he invited me to come out and have a little meeting with him and hired me on the spot. We've been here since 2005. So that's a long way to say I've been in Tulsa at Church on the Move since 2005.
All right. So let's talk about, you've got such a long career, and so talk about, because I teach a lot of kingdom entrepreneurs, and I want you to talk about how you've seen worship change, how the worship leaders have changed, and how to get started in, just that whole, how do you have such long career like you've had?
So you're not going to hear a lot of people talk about what I'm about to talk about, because if you read books on business and entrepreneurship and how to grow a business, it's all about have a vision, have a plan, set these things in motion, make the right connections, chart out your growth, all that kind of stuff. I've kind of been the opposite. As I told my story about how I got involved in Christian music, I never asked for a single opportunity. I always prayed prayers of, Lord, you know what's best for me. What do you want to do? I'm available. In fact, I read a book when I was in college by Arthur Blessitt. Do you remember him?
Yes, I do.
Who carried the cross around the world. And there's a part of his book where he talks about being in a place where I felt like I was as a college student, just going, Lord, I don't know what to do with my talent and my ability. I don't know. And maybe that was a shortcoming for me, like I wasn't aggressive enough to go figure it out. But I was also like, what I read in the Bible, nobody really raises their hand and says, hey, God, I got a great idea. Let's go do this together.
Yeah, right.
It's usually somebody minding their own business or running the opposite direction where God goes, hey, you're my next guy, or you're the next up, right? And then they go do something that the Bible, writes a whole chapter about. And I just was kind of like, maybe I should try that. Like, I couldn't figure anything else out. I'm like, okay, Lord, if you got something for me, why don't you just put me where I'm supposed to be? And I would just pray, Lord. Oh, anyway, go back to the Arthur Blessitt book. There's a part where he's really frustrated. He doesn't know what God's plan for him is, and he prays at the altar, Lord, if you want me to clean the bathroom here at my little church, and that's your greatest thing for me to do, I'll do it. I'm available, whatever you want to do. And then his story starts to unfold and all the things that God called him to do.
Yes.
So I'll just pray that prayer. Okay, Lord, if that's what you want me to do, if you want me to clean the bathrooms at the church, that somebody's got to do it, I'll do it. I'll be your man. And it's amazing, Margo, how many cold phone calls I got. Roger Breed on the Truth, cold phone call saying, hey, I heard about you. You want to come audition for our group? Even before that, it was, hey, we don't have anybody. What about you? You want to come lead this song? Great. I say, sure, I'll do it. When For Him was being formed, I wasn't a part of the discussion. It was the other guys that were having lunch at McDonald's, and we're like, hey, we'd like to do a group kind of like the Imperials or Restless Heart. You remember them from country music back in the day? Really cool vocal harmony thing. And they were like, but we need a fourth. Hey, Andy, you want to come join us in this conversation?
It's like your gift made room for you.
Yeah. I just made myself available.
Yeah.
And God was like, I've got a plan if you trust me.
Yeah.
And then when I felt like God speak to my heart to say, hey, you need to be in worship and not in Christian music, I was like, but I don't know where to go. I don't know how to do that. Okay, Lord, you've done it before. I'll just wait. Sure enough, a pastor friend of mine called me and said, hey, what do you think about this? I think you're my guy. Great, let's go do it. I was there for 5 years. Lord released me. Get a cold call from Willie George. Andy, we've been talking about you and praying about you. We want you to come here. It's been my entire career. So when we talk about starting a business, starting a career in anything, I think there is some credence to, well, why don't you let the Lord decide where you're supposed to go? And now I always believe that God is both sides of the coin, right? Does God hate sin? Yes. Does he love the sinner? Of course he does.
Yes.
Is God a God of judgment? Yes, he's going to bring judgment, but he's also a God of great grace that we can never fully understand. Yes, of course he is. So I do believe that God speaks to some people, or some people are just gifted enough, they're going to go after it. I know so many of my friends that are self-made, successes, millionaires, billionaires, that they just got up one morning and said, I'm going to do that. And they went and did it. But then there are a lot of people that I deal with on a daily basis, and friends that I know that have the same journey I have, that find themselves at a dead end, and they go, okay, God, what are you going to do now? It's a faith exercise to go, well, we've been talking about the Imperials a little bit. We talked about it before we started.
Yeah.
They had a song that resonates in my heart. I heard it for the first time when I was probably 15 years old. You didn't bring us this far to leave us. You didn't teach us to swim to let us drown. You didn't build us home in us to move away. You didn't lift us up to let us down. And that idea, that scriptural principle always resonates in me. It's like, God's not going to lead you somewhere and then abandon you. He's always got a plan for you. And a lot of times he's just waiting for you to say, okay, God, I don't know. What do you want to do? And he's always going to do something with those who are making themselves available. So that's what I would say to anyone starting a business. Now, I work with a lot of worship pastors. I work with a lot of artists who are trying to figure out their next step. And I just say, be patient. Grow where you're planted. Keep doing what you're doing. In the meantime, say, Lord, what do you want? You want me to stay? I'll stay. If you want me to go, I'll go. And I always believe, especially in ministry, God will send someone to come get you.
That's good.
You don't have to just wander around on your own. And look through the Bible. Look at every major character in the Bible.
Yeah.
God sent someone to go get them and say, the Lord brought me to you. You're supposed to come here and do this with me. And I think it's true today. I think if you'll just be patient, and if you're working in ministry-related company or a nonprofit or something like that, that you know that God is in control of, you've given him control of that, then just say, God, what do you want next? What do you want to do? And I really believe 9 times out of 10, he'll send someone to come get you and say, hey, have you been thinking about this? And it's happening to me right now. I could tell you 6 stories that are going on in my life right now where I was like, it'd be cool if I did that, but I don't know. I don't know if right now is the right time. Sure enough. Hey,
that's good.
Hey, would you like to do this with me? Well, I've been thinking about that. There it is. God sent someone to come get me.
That's so good. So you have a couple of things. I saw you at the GMA Museum.
Yeah.
How did you feel about that? I saw you standing there.
Yeah,
and
it was overwhelming. It was overwhelming. I know all the people that have put it together, and so I've been in contact with them over the years. And just a little bit of an aside, For Him was inducted into the Gospel Music Hall of Fame in 2020.
Yes.
But of course, we know in 2020 everything ground to a halt, especially the
That's
Hall
right.
of Fame of Christian music in Nashville. So it literally just they sent us an email and they put it on their website and then nothing, like no fanfare, no dinner, no any of that kind of stuff. It was just there, and so we're like, well, we're in the Hall of Fame, but nobody really knows about it. So it's one of those things where you can't like toot your own horn and go, hey, celebrate us, you know? Didn't ever feel right.
Yeah.
So we all just kind of like, okay, cool, no big deal. Well, they start building the Museum of Christian Music, which is fabulous if you get a chance to go and you know anything about Christian music. Well worth your time.
Okay.
Very well done. It's a real museum, and they're always expanding it. And so I've got a lot of friends that help put it together, curate it. I've been connecting them with a lot of people that I've had on my podcast and saying, hey, here's their information. You can contact them if you want something in your museum. So I was in Nashville a few weeks ago, and they invited me to come up. There was a luncheon there with some of the old timers. Russ Taff was there.
Yes.
Bill Kagi, Eddie DeGarmo.
Oh, wow.
Rick Kua. Gosh, who else was there? So many, did I say Phil Kagi?
Yeah.
There was, Michael Sweet from Stryper was there.
Wow.
I mean, it was just a really cool time to hang out with those guys and have some lunch. But we all got our own tour of the museum, and I got to see our For Him display, all that kind of stuff. And it was great, and I loved being there. And then I turned the corners, the last exhibit that they showed me, I turned the corner, and it was the Hall of Fame exhibit. And this big picture of For Him comes up on the screen, and our bio, and I got emotional because I'd forgotten about it. I was like, well, that's never going to happen. And we were literally the last group inducted into the Hall of Fame, and there's all our stuff sitting there for everybody to see. And I was like, you wrestle with that as a minister, just going, I must decrease so that He must increase.
Yeah.
And, don't look for, don't look for adulation. Don't look for the pat on the back, but we're also human.
Yeah.
And it's really nice when someone says, hey, you did a great job.
Yeah.
And we want to celebrate that. We want to throw you a party. Hey, we really
deal.
love what you did. And so that's all that flooded into me in the moment. I was calling the For Him guys and texting them, sending them pictures, just going, please get out here and see this, because it's just like a nice warm hug saying, hey, you did good, boys.
Wow. Okay, so now you have, of course, you're the worship leader at Church on the Move, and you have One Degree with Andy, and you have Worship with Andy Chrisman that's
Correct.
syndicated.
Right.
Tell us about both of those and why they came about.
So I'm a worship leader at Church on the Move now. I gave up my full-time position in 2020 to go into consulting, and I just wanted to get out and sing again and travel a little more. I felt like my time being the director of worship at Church on the Move was over, and I'd raised up enough really great people.
Oh, man.
To your daughter-in-law being one of those, that they didn't need me anymore.
Well,
so
that may not be true that they don't need you, but we love you.
Yes, and
we love it when you're there.
I do feel that love there. But I was like, I don't have to do this anymore. The Holy Spirit was just like, you can go if you want. You've done what we sent you here to do. And so I did. I'm still there, 20, 30 times a year, which is great. But I've had a radio show. We're going on our 20th year this summer. Called Worship with Andy Chrisman. We're syndicated around the world. It's 2 hours of modern worship music, and I have all the name worship leaders on, like Phil Wickham and Cody Carnes and Carrie Job and
I love it every
Chris
Sunday
Tomlin,
morning,
Matt Revin, all them. But I also love to sit down with local churches that are making music, from all over the country, all over the world, really, just to hear what's going on in their region of the country or the world with worship. So that I really love that. I feel like it's a gift to the communities that we're in. And then out of that, came 1 Degree of Andy, which I was going to call it 1 Degree of For Him, because the idea was For Him we've met everybody in our stretch of Christian music. We either toured with, recorded with, or hung out with everybody that was in that era between, let's say, the early 80s to the early 2000s, which we always like to call the golden age of music, of Christian music. Because it was a Wild West out there. I mean, you turn on the radio, you mentioned earlier, listening to For Him on the radio, but you hear For Him, then you hear Petra, then you hear Twyla Paris, then you hear DC Talk, then you hear Carmen, and then you would hear Clay Cross, and you'd hear Wayne Watson and Sandy Patty. It was everything all on one channel, and there were no rules. It was just make great art, and we'll put it on the air. Not really like that as much anymore. So, and then one of the impetus, well, I don't know what the plural of impetus is. Impetuses. One of the reasons I really pushed this idea forward was there was a movie. The movie came out a couple years ago called the Jesus Music movie, and it was an attempt to tell the story. And I know they only had like a couple hours to do it, but they were attempting to tell the story of Christian music from, all the way back to Larry Norman and Love Song and the early days of the Jesus movement, all the way through for King and Country and, all the artists that are out there now. Yeah. And they only included like 20 artists from the early 60s to the late 2000s. And as someone who lived in that world for 20 years, I'm like, that's not the story of Christian music. There are thousands of artists and writers and musicians and industry people and producers that have a story to tell. And so I was like, why don't I just take what I've been doing at the radio show, turn that into a podcast? And so we're in our 4th season now. We've had almost everybody on. I mean, the only fear is I'm going to run out of guests at some point, but then you turn the corner like, oh, there's 80 people there that I need to have on the show. So we're in our 4th season now, and it's doing really well. It's really super fun to be able to connect with people and just recently, I don't know when this is going to air, but I just did interviews with Reed Arvin, who was our producer for a little while, but he also produced all the Rich Mullins records. So there's a fascinating conversation about Rich Mullins. Michael W. Smith is coming on in the next few weeks. Wow. Have a conversation with him. If you were in Christian music, Rachel Lampa.
And
I just
you
had one with
talked about, on this last podcast, I think it was the last one, is that you talked about how country music and Christian music was so closely related. So I want to ask you a question that's really out there, is because there was such a big hype about Brandon Lake writing that song for Jelly Roll, which we love, hard fought, hallelujah. But there was a big, some people came against him about that. How do you feel about that? Because I heard you talk about country music and Christian music being so connected.
Yeah, of course. I mean, country music was born out of the church. Yeah. I encourage anyone that loves music to watch the Ken Burns country music documentary. Incredible. Okay. It's just, especially as a professional musician, I ate the whole thing up. It's like 8 episodes. It's incredible. But it was born out of the church. It was born out of gospel music. And so the whole country music industry, which is located in the buckle of the Bible Belt in Nashville, Tennessee, so many of those artists came out of the church. They go to church. You can't go to a church in Nashville without seeing a country artist or a country producer or a country songwriter. And a lot of those have one foot in Christian music and one foot in country music, or they graduated from Christian music into the country world, right? And I work with guys all the time. One of the guys from Rascal Flatts, Jay DeMarcus, is a very good friend of mine, strong believer, and yet he's one of the biggest icons in the history of country music. So it is very closely tied. Now, the problem with, and I'll explain why. The problem with Christian music is that once we amp up the star power of it and how good we can make it sound, which is what happened in the 80s. I mean, if you want to talk about Amy Grant and Michael W. and DC Talk, how they were starting to get into the secular world. Yeah. Well, as soon as it starts to get to a certain level of excellence, and you start putting more money into it, and you got people like, and let's just say Brandon Lake, that now you start to see them on, on CBS and NBC and Fox, and they're everywhere. What comes along with that is Jesus told us they're going to hate you because of me. So don't think that the gospel is going to go down easy with the world. Yeah. And there's always a snapback, always, whether it's from the church or from the world, that we're going to let you in and take a good look at you. But in the church world, if you do something that we don't like, if you look a certain way, or you say something in an interview that doesn't go along with our beliefs of our certain denomination, then you're done. We're gonna blackball you. On the other side with the world, if you get too sincere about your faith and you start to call out sin for what it is, and you stand up for the name of Jesus, at some point they're going to go, no thanks, we don't want that. Yeah. Dial it down or get out. And so I think through the history of music, there have been surges of the gospel through music. And put on 50s and 60s radio every once in a while. Mm-hmm. You'll hear a hymn, or you'll hear something that talks about the Lord. Same thing happens in the 70s and 80s, right? Every once in a while, a song will get through that talks about the Lord, but it doesn't last. Same thing happens in the 90s and 2000s, where Christian music starts to cross over a little bit into the secular world. It doesn't last because the world doesn't want it, and the church says, you're out there, you don't belong in the church. So it's tough. I don't know Brandon personally. I think the world of him as far as an artist and what he's doing to spread the gospel, and for the time that he's going to have, whatever door's been open to him, he's running through and shouting the name of Jesus. Yes. Good for him. Yeah. I don't know his personal life. I've never hung around him, so I can't speak for that. But what I do see is he's proclaiming the gospel in a dark world. Yeah. And it's like going into hell with a squirt gun. We're gonna do some good, but eventually that door's gonna close, and we'll have to find another way back in. So I told you I can talk a lot before we got started, and
that's great.
I have a lot of opinions.
That is so great. So as we close, talk about just a few minutes about the next generation of worship leaders and how you feel about that, and the church as a whole on worship in the church.
So I had a really great conversation yesterday. He'll be a guest on my podcast coming soon with Robbie C. And the Robbie C. band was big in the early 2000s. They had some big songs, but now he is one of the directors of the Worship Initiative with Shane and Shane. So he has his pulse on music of the church more than probably anybody else in North America. And we had a really great conversation yesterday just about the journey of worship music in the church has trended young, right? So because of social media, and because, I don't know, we had this conversation about how, all the churches across the U.S., they see what's going on in Elevation and Bethel and all the big hip churches, right? Yeah. And they're young and it's energetic and they're writing their own songs and putting them on the radio and on Spotify. And what senior pastors will do, and I don't blame them, is they go, well, if we're going to have a church that is impacting the community, it's got to have that type of worship. Yeah. So what do? You're going to find a 20, 21-year-old that can sing and play an instrument and create some great moments. The problem is they're not trained to be a pastor. So we have this problem in the church where you have a lot of very young leaders who are very gifted and honestly have the anointing on them to lead worship, but they have no idea how to pastor people. Yeah. And they're doing it on the fly. And in the meantime, because there's been such a youth movement, and this is where a lot of my consulting and coaching has come in, is because there's a youth movement, the older worship leaders have either been pushed out or they excuse themselves because they think, oh, it's not my world anymore. It's a young man's world. I need to go do something else. And one of the conversation pieces that we had, that Robbie and I had, was about the need for older worship leaders and worship pastors to stay in the church. Because who's going to lead these young guys? Who's going to show them the lay of the land? Who's going to say, hey, I've been where you are 20, 30 years ago. Let me show you how to not make the same mistakes I've made. They need to stand on our shoulders, not start all over again. So that's part of, I have a ministry called the Worship Table, and that's one of the things we do is we gather as many worship pastors together as possible, especially ones that are in their 30s, 40s, and 50s, to just say, hey, you can still do this. I'm going to be 60 this year, and I'm still doing it with everything I've got.
Yeah.
And getting invitations to churches.
Yeah.
I get offers every month to come on staff at a church somewhere, and I'm like, that's not what God has for me right now, but...
Right.
Even at 60 years old, I know that I can still lead churches in worship, and I can be there for the younger worship leaders. And you keep mentioning Church on the Move. Church on the Move has they have a garden full of great young worship leaders. Mm-hmm. And one of the great joys I have is to be able to sit down with them every week and just hear them talk about, I don't know how to do this, and how do I do this better? Great, I'm glad you asked that question, because I've done that. Let me show you the way. So I believe that a healthy worship culture in a church is going to have young, old, everybody in between, who are drafting from each other and learning from each other. Because even us old guys, we're learning from the young guys, right?
Yeah.
It's like, what I don't want to be is my dad going, you kids and your music, it's just a bunch of noise.
Yeah.
I can have a tendency to do that, but then go, but wait a minute, that's what you're creating. It's on your heart. It's what's important to you. Let me find out what this is all about. And maybe I can help guide this for you so that it's something that you're proud of in the future. I don't know. I have a lot to say on the subject. I just, where I believe that if you're older, you should be raising up the next generation, because without the next generation, the church doesn't move forward.
It's the truth.
And that was always my goal at Church on the Move, was I don't want to be the 50, 60-year-old worship pastor that's running everything. I want to build a garden that reproduces itself and continues to plant seed for generation after generation after generation of worship leaders.
And I think that is exactly what the Bible talks about, is you disciple.
That's right.
And you really have that heart to disciple. And again, I don't think I've ever said this, but thank you for, training my daughter-in-law, Diana. I mean, she has just become a beautiful, beautiful singer. And so thank you for that. And if a church needs to get a hold of you, because I think everybody should come to one of your worship, get you to coach them. I mean, whatever you do. So where would they go to get connected with you?
AndyChrisman.com is an easy way to find me. I'm also pretty much the only Andy Chrisman on social media. So if you go to Facebook, X, Instagram, just type in Andy Chrisman. I check my social media messages every day. And yeah, that's the best way to get a hold of me.
All right.
I'm out there, and I'm easy to find.
Yeah, you are. You're out there everywhere. So thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Andy, for coming. It's been such a blessing. Thank you for sharing your heart. You're such a worship pastor. You're such, you're with the church, man. It shows, that you just want to grow the church and do what God's called you to do. So thank you.
Thank you. Can I tell you one last story?
Yes.
So I'll end. I think it's a valuable part of my journey, and I think it's something that I think can speak to someone that's listening right now. I had a vision. I told you about 99. I felt like God said, it's time to do something different. Well, what instigated that journey for me was I had a dream, a vision, kind of like what Paul says, I don't know if I was in the body, out of the body.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was a dream, if it was real, but I found myself standing before the throne of God. And I had all of my trophies, all of my number one plaques, all of my Dove Awards, all the things that I had gathered, in my career. And I laid them down at his feet, ready to hear, well done, good and faithful servant. And all God did in this vision was go, huh. He kind of shrugged his shoulders and went, huh. He wasn't mad. I didn't get a sense that he was angry or disappointed at me. Right. He was just like, well, that's cool. Yeah. that's cool. Thanks. But I didn't hear, well done, good and faithful servant. So I went on a journey. It was
Wow.
devastating to my spirit because I'm like, did I miss it? What am I supposed to do now? It was a pit in my spirit just to go, I got to figure this out. And Margo, it's taken me, it still affects me. I still think about it. And I think I know now what God was saying. He's saying, I don't want you to bring me your trophies. I want you to bring me people.
Wow.
Bring me people. That's what he wants. Everything else is going to burn up.
It's the truth.
He wants people. How do I do that? Well, I can bring people to him in worship, right?
Yeah.
Instead of singing to them, I can lead them into his presence, into worship. And when you come face to face with God, you're going to be changed. You're going to change. You're going to walk away. Okay. The other thing is now I can raise up other people to do what I do and bring them before the throne so that they can now lead more people before him. And I feel like at this point in my life, and it may change in another 10 years, I might find another level of this, but God wants people. Bottom line. It doesn't matter how successful we are. It doesn't matter if our dreams come true or not. What he wants in the end are people. And that's where I feel like I'm going to hear, well done, good and faithful servant, is if I come with arm in arm with the people that I've led to him.
Wow, what a message to worship leaders and worship pastors. And wow, what a message. So thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being on the Dr. Margo Show. Thank you so much for joining us. And God bless you. Have a wonderful day. And go to andychrisman.com and look at everything that he's got there for you. And have a wonderful day.